Hello everybody, this is Brad Clark for Rigging Dojo. Today we're going to check out a very handy tool in the Blender weight paint arsenal. This has become a super useful tool and brush in all kinds of ways, including skinning and editing weights on multiple surfaces or trying to get really smooth fall off on thick surfaces like this scarf. So we're going to look at two ways to use the gradient tool. And when we reached out on Twitter to ask, a few people were using it to remove weights as a quick way to just clean up and get rid of influences, but we're going to show you a couple ways to use it with cloth simulation and in order to edit and interactively adjust, say, skinning on a surface that may be typically hard to paint. So this snowman is a character that is being worked on for another project, and he's rigged with Rigify. So here he's just got a base skeleton, and then some clothing pieces that are separate objects, and then quite a few different pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and start. We'll look at the scarf first, since the scarf's going to get some cloth simulation. And I don't need to select the skeleton in this case because we're just using it as a way to create a fall off for the cloth sim. So I'm going to switch over to this view so we can see it a little better. And I want you to recognize that Blender's brushes, while it says draw, this is the same as replace in Maya, and add is the same as add, right? Or you can think of it as, multiply is going to be here, right? So you can do multiply and then treat it just like Maya brushes. But in this case, we're going to look at first the draw mode. And Blender works with vertex groups. So if I go to the vert group area and I have a new one that's got all of the verts selected for this cloth object, but there's no weighting right now. It's just 0. I can go into the gradient tool, and I could try to start painting this, right, with draw. I can paint, and do all this stuff, because right now the strength is low, so it's not going to be 100%. But, I can try to start painting this, and this is not terrible. Like, this is fairly efficient in Blender, because you can paint through thick surfaces, unlike Maya, where you are only painting on the normal side, right? You can't paint through thick surfaces. So this automatically already is better when you're dealing with surfaces that have thickness. But I don't trust that this fall off is very even. So we're going to undo this a couple times, and we will switch back to the gradient tool now. And I'm going to go ahead and snap to a front view. With the weight and the strength at 100%, I can do a short gradient. So now I know that the top part here is 100%, and it's going to stick to the existing skinning when I do the cloth sim, and then it falls off and all of this is simmed. So I can start with that as a quick pin with some smoothness. Now if I zoom out a little bit and give myself more room, I can do a much bigger fall off, a longer gradient, and give myself a lot more influence from the skin, and then the very end we'll get all of the simulation. So this way we get some animation existing from the body, and then the cloth will be additive to the effect. And then the top can be 100%, right? So if I just continue to draw in this area, then that's a really fast way to do this. Okay, so now let's look at the gradient tool with doing some skin weighting. So I've got a pose animated on this character, and you can see that the scarf here is compressing, and it's not going with the body very well. So I'm going to go ahead and come back, and again, I could try painting this, but it's very difficult on a weird shape to try to paint evenly. So we're going to use the gradient tool. I've got this deformed skeleton here, and then I grab that one with shift, and I jump down to weight paint. I can turn off vert mode here, but we can be in the gradient mode now, and I'm going to switch the brush to add and in gradient. And now when I pick this joint, I look in the vertex group, I can see that I've got this spine 6 and spine 5. So if I grab this with control, this is spine 6, this is spine 5. And this joint here does not exist. It's got no weighting to it. So if I bend forward, I can see that there is no influence here from these chest joints. if I start to add with the gradient tool, now you can start to see that we're getting influence here. And I can do this really quickly and basically just, in the view, start to continually add weights to this part of the surface. And you can see real time as I move this around, it's adding weights. So now I can go ahead and influence the skinning on the different parts of the mesh. And if I do a very short gradient here, I can fix the skinning on this cloth. Now, wasn't paying attention to my angle, so let me undo that. So now if I adjust the angle here, right, I'm affecting the entire cloth. And so I may not want to do that. I might just jump over here and switch to vertex mode and then grab the area of, vertex mode, grab my selection and select the weights I'm trying to edit. And now when I'm in gradient mode and over here, now I can continuously add to them with this gradient tool, and it's going to help me fix that area. And this is really powerful and fast compared to editing the weights by hand or trying to use the paintbrush and then smooth it afterwards. And I found this really helpful in many ways to fix stuff that Maya's brush tools and skinning tools just don't do well. The other thing that's really nice about Blender's weighting tools is that because the gradient tool works with the brushes, if I decide that, I don't want influence, and this is one of the things on Twitter people use the most, they said, if I go to draw and then I switch to gradient and I set the weight to 0, let me grab, spine 6. If I just don't want spine 6 values anymore, I can use the gradient tool to get rid of them. Now I did the whole thing, but maybe I just want to start at the side of the mesh and remove up to a certain point. So if I do that, now we can see that, I can start to remove interactively some weights off of there. And now I've cleaned the bottom half of that scarf so that there's no more influence. And you might think, well, how does this help with legs and arms and things like that? Again, I can remove, let's say I go to the hand, I can remove weighting into the hand across the entire surface. So I have these weird branches and all that stuff, and I can kind of fade this off. But then maybe I want to increase the influence down here. I can add the weight back, and now I can start to draw interactively, bringing the weight back into this surface that is really hard to paint and really slow to select and manage. So now I can just very short draw, pull that back in. And depending on my view angle, I can quickly get this rigged back so that I have a really nice weighting on the hand across all these surfaces. And then I can do things like smooth and all that stuff if I need to, but I just wanted to point out this gradient tool, and I think it's underutilized and misunderstood as far as how it interacts with the brush settings. And for surfaces that have either strange shapes that are hard to paint or are slow to select or manage because they're thick like the scarf, or you're trying to get really even weighting across a surface like clothing or something where you want the bottom half of the cloth to simulate, the gradient brush has been a fantastic tool in Blender, and it's something that keeps bringing me back out of Maya and into Blender. So hopefully that helps everybody out and gives you some new ideas for using this tool.